Okay, so here we are again. I'm gonna do a little review of a cigar, of course, but then talk about where do you get real Cuban cigars, or where do you get Cuban cigars? The answer is somewhat obvious, but if you want to hold on, I'll give you, I'll, I'll, I'll give you the truth. Whether you're in the states, um, out of the states, or where you should go, I'll give you a hint that. It sounds like banana, but anyway, we'll talk about that in a second. Let's do a watch check as I normally do. Let's flip. So this is an Invicta. So I hear a lot of scoffs about Invicta among serious watch collectors, but I'll tell you what, they make a pretty nice watch. This one's those are diamonds around there, so you can get this watch for a tenth of the price of some of the Swiss models. And it's a pretty nice watch. It's automatic movement. So anyway, I don't mind Invictas. I have all types. Here's a boot check. And these are some of my favorites. The weather's starting to get a little better. We'll put them up over here by little Liza, if she doesn't mind. So these are Blackjack, and these are alligator tail. And so you've heard me maybe talk about differences. See the alligator all the way up there, and very nice, nice scales. Alligator is the way to go. If you can do it, I often find them used because they're just so expensive. So let's go to the Euro Cave and figure out a cigar to pick out. And so we've got the humidor's looking pretty good. Euro Cave, you may have heard me talk about it. I think it's the best humidor you can buy. You can see it's keeping at 68% humidity. The time is off there, but 61 degrees Fahrenheit. You can control that. Put some humidity beads in there, and then there's electric controls too. So I'm on the Cuban kick right now because I recently got back. And so let's talk about where you get these, but let's pick one out and review it. Should it be the Bolivar or Por Laranga? We got the San Cristobal. I got a ton of Series D Partagas. So if you're interested in, leave it in the comments if you're interested in me trying any particular one, but I haven't tried his Bolivar. I'm not sure if I've had a Bolivar Cuban. I think so. I'm pretty sure I've had one, but I don't remember. It's been a little while. So here's a Bolivar Torpedo, and this one, speaking of where to get them, I got in Havana at the airport. So if you really wanted to be cheap, you could just fly into Havana, go in the airport, buy some cigars, and fly out. But this one, nice, nice shade, well oiled, good. Seems like put together pretty well. So we'll light her up and we'll talk about it. And as I'm doing so, I'll talk about, of course, where to get cigars, Cuban cigars. So let's get this up there a little bit. Hopefully that's about right. It won't cut off my head. I'll go back maybe just a tad. Okay, we'll close up the Euro Cave. And the paper's out of the way. So with a lot of Cubans, very nice flavor before lighting, tad bit of saltiness to it. I think that's the soil, the wrapper, hopefully not too much the sweat of the roller, but who knows. cut this. Very good. Sometimes on the pre-light draw, it can be really tight, and that kind of scares you with the cigar. And so this one doesn't. It's drawn really good. I'm gonna build this up. I like this Calibre lighter here because it gives you a flat flame, which is kind of nice. You might say, well, why do you want a flat flame? Well, it doesn't dart up the side of the cigar, so you're not toasting halfway up your cigar or the wrapper. And so this is kind of there's a lot of flame, but it's not overwhelming. So, as I said, I have come to appreciate sort of the lighting experience of Cuban cigars. All cigars, really. We need to light a little more, but we're not getting cooperation. So, always have a backup, right? Or butane. So I'll try not to totally toast it with this 4-torch Vertigo. Starting to kind of ride up the side. I don't want that, but in any event. Kind of even out the. There we go. Generally speaking, a lot of smoke on this one. You know it's well lit when you get a full puff and you get a full mouth of smoke out of it. So the Bolivar start out not spicy at all, and that's great. I'm not a fan of spicy cigars. And maybe that's why I like Cubans, because very rarely do you get overwhelmed with spice in Cuba. So this one, it definitely has some strength to it, but no spice. It's got kind of a deeper taste, whatever that means. So Cubans always have a creaminess to them, and this is kind of a deeper, thicker sort of cream to it. Nice flavor. Usually they develop as they go. Excellent draw. The Upman that I recently reviewed had a bad draw. This is nothing like that. It's a fantastic draw. All right, so far very good with the Bolivar. Not as good as Cohiba, not as good as Upman, not as good as Partagas, but good. A little different than those, but so let's talk about where you get Cuban cigars. So the most obvious answer is in Cuba. And some people say, well, you can't go to Cuba or you can't bring back cigars. So you can go to Cuba, as many of you know from my other videos. Can't go as a tourist, but you can elect a different reason to go. And you don't have to be dishonest. You know, if you want to go and get cigars, you can do that. But you need to do it under one of those defined categories, and the one I use is support for the Cuban people. It's a category identified by our government, and there's certain things you have to do for that. There's no application. You just check the box when you fill out your when you're booking your flight, and yes, you can fly directly from the United States to Cuba. Usually I go through Lauderdale or Tampa. But you got to keep a journal of your activities, and so don't stay at government places, and you can see my other videos on that. But anyway, easy to go, fairly cheap, right? Round trip plane ticket. Sometimes I fly out of Pittsburgh, sometimes Columbus, Cleveland. $500 to $600. I recommend staying in Cuba. It's fantastic. Airbnbs. It's a great cultural experience. But the best place to go to get Cuban cigars, is Cuba. And so you fly there, you go there. And where do you go? So as in this one, you can get them at the airport. They're slightly more expensive at the airport, even though they supposedly don't have capitalism. You'll find a lot of capitalism in Cuba, by the way. But there's slightly more there. I like going to the official Cuban cigar shops, La Casa del Habanos. If I can, I'll put that name in the description or the comments. La Casa del Habanos. So that's the official Habanos SA is the company that distributes Cuban cigars, and so those are their shops. And you can find several of them in Cuba. Easy to Google them, find out where they are. There's a great app called maps.me where you can go in Cuba, and it's a GPS map, doesn't use your data on your phone. And you can find the cigar shops by listing them there, or find them beforehand, pin them, know where they're at, and take taxis when you get there. Nothing more cool, right, than taking a 55 Chevy in Havana in 80-degree weather, maybe even a convertible, and going to a cigar shop and having a Cuban cigar. I mean, doesn't get much better. If you're a drinker, you can have some rum with that, and life is good. So there's several La Casa del Habanos, and you can read up on those. Cigar Aficionado has a lot of articles about some of the good ones. Each one has different cigars, so it's not like the United States where you go to these massive cigar shops and they have like everything. Like they only sell Cuban cigars in Cuba, number one. And number two, not each store has the same ones. And so you can find some of your go-tos pretty much at all of them. The Party's number 4, some Romeos, that type of thing. Cohiba. But you might not find a Bolivar everywhere. You might not find aged cigars. Cool thing about Cuban cigars, on the back of the box shows the date they were made. And if you get some that are a couple years old, aged, they're even better, smoother. So going to Cuba, I think my favorite cigar shop in Cuba is in Miramar. Miramar is a suburb of Cuba. It's kind of where the diplomats stay. Really nice suburb. And there's a La Casa del Habanos there. It's known as sort of Robena's place, or Carlito's place. Robena is a Cuban cigar. It was I believe his father that sort of was in charge of the company years ago. And so a very nice gentleman, classy store, huge selection, walk-in humidor. You can look at the boxes and the box dates and all that. Other places, Old Havana, you're doing walking tours. There's other cigar shops there. Not all of those are La Casa del Habanos. Those that are in classy areas, I trust those. But, some of the bigger hotels, Malia Habana, Malia Cohiba, the National Hotel, Cuba, all have La Casa del Habanos in them, and it's pretty cool to go there and check it out. So that's the best place. Also, if you're in Havana, if you hook up with a good tour guide, a trusted one like I have, you can find and they can get you cigars that are sold out of the factory cheaper. But I recommend, if you're a first timer, just go to La Casa del Habanos and get a couple cigars. Now, can you bring them back? A whole nother story. You can absolutely go there and smoke them. And I've done that a lot. Can you bring them back? Well, you have to research that yourself. But needless to say, I have a nice collection of Cuban cigars. So another place to get them is if you're traveling out of the country, and look for the same thing, La Casa de Habanos. There's the official Cuban cigar shop in Cabo. Went to Puerto Vallarta. There's one there. There's one in Jamaica. All throughout the Caribbean. Google it first, find out. But those are really cool stores to go to. If you go to Europe, again, La Casa de Habanos, you can find them. That's the place to go. Now, what if you're in the United States and you don't want to travel out of the country? Well, you can get them by mail order. Research the internet, find some reputable places. They say there are more fake Cuban cigars sold than real ones. Who they are, I don't know, but there are a lot of fakes out there. So you want to find some reputable sources online. So there's a couple of sites, and you can do some research on those. I think I might even have some information early on about where I got some of mine, some of my older videos. So generally, you get them out of like Switzerland, but there are some places. There's a shop out of Germany that's really good. There are some that are based out of China. China, I think, buys more Cuban cigars than anybody, and you can get them out of China if you find a reputable spot. Fairly safe. Most places have a guarantee. If you don't get them in the mail, they'll replace them. So you can go that route. You can try to find, the buddy that knows somebody that he has Cuban cigars, or the local cigar shop that sort of has them under the table. Most likely, and I say most likely, like 95% chance, those are fake. Maybe decent cigars, but they're not real Cubans. So, I mean, as I said, there's a huge market for that. And, it just doesn't make sense. Cuba has pretty strict controls, I think, on export. I'm not saying that there's not some that make it out, but for the most part, I think cigars made in Cuba are being sold officially or under the table, but they're not making it into the black market into the United States. I just don't think that's true, but some maybe. But I wouldn't recommend it. Certainly, you don't buy them off the guy on the beach. If you're on vacation in Lauderdale or something, hey, I got Cuban cigars. No, you don't. Even in Cuba or Mexico, somebody on the beach, what you're buying is crap. And not. I'd literally be afraid to smoke it. You don't know what's in it. And I've done a video on taking apart some of those cigars, and literally, if you're lucky, it's just like floor scraps. But if you're not, it's got even more nefarious stuff in it. So this Bolivar, pretty good cigar, smooth, nice flavor. Draws well, is burning well. I really like, if I go to La Casa de Habanos in Cuba, I get some there, and I get some off my tour guide. When I'm leaving Cuba, it's kind of cool, I think, just to go into the airport there as you're waiting for your flight, and they've got not a lot, but several different. You go to different kiosks and different little spots of cigars, and so I'll just buy one. Like I bought this one, I just bought one Bolivar don't recall having one. I might have had one before. Got that Upman that I'd never had before. You know, it's kind of cool to pick out one or two. And cost, it's about $15. So more than it was before COVID, before inflation hit. The cigar before that would probably be about $9. So they're more, but you go to a cigar shop in the United States, and you're going to pay $12 to $15 for a decent cigar nowadays anyway. So here you're getting a Cuban. So, all right. Well, I think that'll do it. Hope you found the information useful. Enjoy the rest of this one. We'll see you next time. All right, Liza, say goodbye. She was out running in the mud, so.